We are very happy to
Fine.
see that the 32 members have, 32 participants have already joined us. And
Yes, yes.
let's we can start.
Yeah.
Okay,
Fine.
good.
Then,
Yeah,
yeah,
good.
go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, Captain Goswami. You can start the proceedings.
Good evening, everybody. I hope all are safe and well protected. Welcome to Kolkata CMMI monthly lecture meeting. Let me introduce Captain Kaustuv Dutta. We all know Captain Kaustuv Dutta. There is nothing much to talk about, but still I have a few lines to introduce him in today's meeting. Captain Kaustuv Dutta is a master of passenger ships and is actively involved in improving India's maritime activities. Captain Kaustuv Dutta is the chairman of CMMI Kolkata and is an elected warden of CMMI India. Captain Dutta never fails to keep his commitments, and today his presentation is an outcome of what he promised in his election campaign manifesto, that is strategic planning for CMMI's improvement. And he's going to give a lecture. Captain Dutta underwent several value-added and professional maritime courses conducted by nautical institutes in London. Let's welcome Captain Kaustuv Dutta. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Goswami. I will start my presentation on today's topic of building strategy in shipping using creativity. The framework or the theory is the Porter's 5 forces of competitive position analysis that were developed in 1979 by Michael E. Porter of Harvard Business School as a simple framework for assessing and evaluating the competitive strength and position of a business organization. This theory is based on the concept that there are 5 forces that determine the competitive intensity and attractiveness of a market. Porter's 5 forces help to identify where power lies in a business situation. This is useful both in understanding the strength of an organization's correct competitive position and the strength of a position that an organization may look to move into. So let's see what the 5 forces are. Rivalry among existing competitor, threat of substitute products, bargaining power of buyers, threat of new entrants, and lastly the 5th one, bargaining power of suppliers. Now, let's see the benefits of Porter's 5 forces model. 5 forces organizational strategy analysis helps. First one, to understand the potential factors controlling profitability in a specific industry. Second one is to can build an impetus for decisions and responsive relating to whether to enter or exit from a specific industry. Third one is to increase volume in a specific industry, and the 4th one is developing competitive advantage over others.
Yeah, I think you're still there online.
Yeah, I am online. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but you need to change the page next.
Yeah, it is not changing. I don't know. Somewhere it is getting stuck. Just a minute. I'll stop the share and again start. I think so somewhere it got stuck in the third page. Just a minute.
Yeah, it has come now. It has come.
Okay. Fine. Now we'll take the actions to take, the do's. That is, use this model where there are market competitors engaged in asperity. Second is to think of rules and regulation impact from governments on the industry in macro level, meso level, and micro level. Third is to consider the saturation stage of the industry when no further improvement can occur. Last is fourth one, they evaluate the dynamic changing characteristics of the industry. And the actions to avoid or the don'ts are, do not use this model for internal purpose in an individual firm. It is used on an industry basis in which several competitions are involved. The 5 forces Porter's model analysis is the 4 forces, that is rivalry among existing competitors, bargaining power of the buyer, threat of new entrants, and bargaining power of the supplier remain relatively static. However, the force, threat of substitute of products or services are always dynamic due to varying degrees of societal needs. Thus, thinking of creativity continuum is very much necessary to stay above the jungle. Porter did not take into account which are the organizations, networking ability with others in the industry, and intangible assets like the strength of human intellectualities in the organization itself. There are 4 creativity approaches to building a breakthrough strategy as explained by Brandenburger in 2019. Contrast, combination, constraints, and last one is context. First, let's discuss the first one, contrast. The creative mind must challenge the assumptions undergirding the shipping companies or shipping industry status quo to rediscover new avenues for business. Example, so replace the magnetic compass by satellite compass. Like SpaceX does not need any magnetic compass. Then precisely identify the assumptions that underlie conventional thinking in your organization. Think about what might be gained by proving one or more of them as false, and deliberately disturb an aspect of your normal work pattern to break up ingrained assumptions. But remember, assumptions are already incorporated in the organization's policies because of prevalent businesses. Hence, imposing these creativities will not be easy. We all know people are resistant to change. The second one, combination. This is just connecting things, combining the products or services that are in the same or in different directions, waxing or waning. This helps to prevent eavesdropping others, thinking or to find their work activities using a third person. The name casing will be transferred is likely to change. Casing will be transferred when information is passed by a third person. Combination is a canonical creative approach, thus combining 2 very different set ideas that have been separate in the past. Form groups with diverse expertise and experience, brainstorming on new combination of products or services. Look for ways to coordinate intellectual outputs. Combinations require system level thinking and measurements, thus forming groups by allowing people from all ranks and fields in the relevant industries to join. Third one is the constraints. using creative thinking to turn difficulties or limitations to strength and opportunities. Lift a constraint that was previously possible should now also be possible. If there was less burden of paperwork in the industry in those days, why not now? However, it needs a whole new line of thinking. If reducing manpower is necessary, then give it a thought of reducing workload by outsourcing the jobs and correct the maintenance errors. List the incompetencies rather than competencies of your organization and test whether they can in fact be turned into strength. Consider deliberate imposing of some constraints to encourage people to find new ways of thinking and acting. The last one, context, is look for other sources that had similar problems but different context or companies or industries. One should not be trapped in a single narrative and therefore should keep lookout what the other industries are doing with respect to their businesses, technical and HR issues. Explain your businesses to an outsider in another industry, not limited only to transport industries, but also to others. Fresh eyes from different contexts can help uncover new answers and opportunities. Engage with lead users, extreme users, and innovation hotspots. Example, other shipping stakeholders, charterers, shippers, authorities, etc. The idea in brief of creativity for strategy. The problem is the field of strategy over focuses on analytic rigor and under focuses on creativity. Why it matters? Now, analytical tools are good at helping strategists develop business ideas that are close at hand, but less good in discovering transformative strategies. In practice, a wise strategist can work with four creativity enhancing tools: contrast, combination, constraint, and context. That's the end of my presentation, a very brief one. Thank you for your support. And I wish, being an elected warden for the next 2 years, to adopt some of these in CMMI's future, what to say, financial, as a financial revenues. Yes, I put it this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Dutta. Well presented. Porters 5. We usually know them in Porters 5 and taught very widely in almost all the business schools in the world. And the creativity part is very interesting to find what is false, to find, to impose constraints on the existing systems. Otherwise, we'll be stuck and stagnant in the system and never improve. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we come to the next lecture of Captain Dr. Dev Goswami. I will briefly introduce him. Captain Dr. Dev Goswami has a seagoing experience of 40 years and commanded 43 different types of oil tankers, including ultra-large crude carriers, except gas tankers. In parallel to his sailing, he has also kept himself engaged in academic world, not only in India, but also in UK and Netherlands. Captain Dr. Dev Goswami is an MBA in shipping and logistics from Middlesex University, London. He did his MPhil in shipping and doctoral degree in business administration from Maastricht School of Management, Maastricht, Netherlands. His particular interests are in shipping, business research, organizational strategy, and action research. He also worked in Indian Maritime University, Kolkata campus as an external faculty for teaching MBA students for several years. Captain Dr. Goswami can be contacted anytime for any issues related to doctoral study and shipping business research. Welcome, Captain Dr. Dev Goswami. Over to you for your lecture. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Captain Dutta, and I really appreciate your introduction to these participants this evening. And in order to do this, I should now share my screen, right?
Yes, you can share the screen.
Share screen. Okay. And let's start. Share. Can everybody see now?
Yes, you can make it full screen with slideshow.
Is it okay now? People can see?
It's okay. You can do the slideshow from beginning.
Good evening again. Today my presentation is on surviving disruptive innovation in maritime shipping, and it's it particularly in today's talks in shipping because time has come now. People have introduced autonomous ships in maritime shipping, and how it will affect us, and what competition we can actually give from the conventional ships purpose. I'm not sure if anybody has thought of this or not. And my interest was to see it, that how it would perform in future, because this kind of automation ships in water is the first of its kind, has been introduced recently. But although we know, we are aware of, it has been going on for quite some time in the space. We talk about spaceships, and Elon is now trying to make SpaceX go to Mars next year, in I think 2025. So there are some common things between the SpaceX and the ships in the maritime world. One is in the earth, and the other one is in the space. And their navigation system be more or less same like us, and their way of working would be different, and our way of working would be different. So this is an analysis. This subject is an analysis that how what we can think of in the coming of autonomous ships in the maritime shipping. It is not that it is not my intention to be detrimental to what technological process that has been undertaken by Kongsberg, and to put them down that no, these are all things not going to work in future. I'm very much interested to know how it would work, and how it's going to work, and how it's going to help the maritime shipping industry in future. Where will be our people involved in the shipping? How many of us will be employed, and where will go after this if we become jobless in all of a sudden in next 5 years' time? These are the few things. Although this presentation is not, very long one. Usually it should take about 2 to 3 days of webinar activities. But anyhow, let's consider this as an introduction of what we are going to do with this disruptive how we'll survive the disruptive innovation in maritime shipping. So let's go to the next slides. What is actually innovations? Innovations is, everybody knows what is innovations, and it is widely discussed in today's world. Everybody is talking about innovation. Nobody wants to be in the archaic state anymore. Everybody wants new things, and last 20 years has been very, very important, very, very interesting to the world, with a lot of innovation things have come with. Apple has come with the screen touch mobile phones from ordinary button press mobile phones, and today we can have online classes and also presentations, such people joining us across the world. Innovation is a new idea, a method, or a device, as defined by Merriam-Webster dictionary, that makes a shift from the existing world of human activities. Innovation can be considered as one of the main avenues to maintain competitiveness, and often is an integral part of industrial studies. The business world has always been competitive in the world. Everybody competes in the business. In fact, sometimes it is interpersonal also competition, that who does what, and we try to put every concepts we have about others in our own frame to decide that is he ahead of me, or is he behind of me, or is he ahead of the average people, or is an excellent, and all this. So competition goes neck to neck with innovation. However, in maritime shipping, apart from naval architecture literature, little attention has been given to the role of innovations in other aspects, innovation in other aspects, especially human resource and business aspects. This is my own view, because I've seen in last 50 years, a lot of changes have taken place in the maritime shipping. New regulations have come. IMO has become more proactive, of course, at times reactive also, to make changes. For example, we have seen the people like of our generation who sailed on CBD tankers. They are not there anymore. They are scrapped or maybe in some museums. But SBD tankers, and then gas tankers, the new things that have come in the shipping, but all related to the naval architecture and the ship construction. So they related to human resources and business aspects, still lagging behind the naval architecture innovations. Then we move on to the next term, disruptive innovations. Now we had innovations, now disruptive innovations. So the disruptive innovation is an innovation that creates a new market value network and eventually displaces the established market leading firms, products, and alliances. This is defined by Clayton in 1995 in his article. It's a very interesting article. If people want, they can read it. That what a disruption can cause in our life. Disruptive innovations are like missiles launched to your business. This is Wessel and Christensen stated in 2012. This lodges your existing business. This dislodges your existing.
Captain Goswami, I think you are muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, okay. I don't know how it has begun. Who muted me? Maybe some virus.
Okay. I think some problem. Anyway.
But I can say that a lot of people, they don't like me anyway. So
no, that's okay.
Don't digress. Don't get distracted.
No, that's okay. Please continue. Captain Goswami, continue.
Okay, then let's define what is disruptive innovation. So though we have defined what is disruptive innovation, in maritime shipping, disruptive innovation is a far distant concept and often is not spoken about. So this is this is Goswami myself, and I wrote it in one of the articles, which is in the process of being made. So this in the shipping, we never heard anybody talking about disruptive innovations. Okay, this is just the basics, the players of disruptive who can be involved in the disruptive innovations in the maritime shipping, and I'm sure all the experienced people, they know which are all these departments. There are about 36 of this, and each of them can be a disruptive innovator. And one action of one of them can cause, not if not measured, then to some extent dislodge the others' activities. For example, if the builder wants something, if they want to have some disruptive innovation, they say that we want to make the ship's accommodation in a barge shape to make it more aerodynamic. Then definitely the ship owners will have to consider it. And then obviously any business that starts with some kind of innovation, it has the ultimate goal of making profit or making money. Otherwise, there is no point in doing business, because the business is not meant for charity purpose. And then we move on to the next one. This is the conceptual model of disruptive innovations. And mind you, still we have not spoken about the survival part, the main topic of this subject. But let's first understand what is disruptive innovations, and then we can go on to the survival part. The conceptual model of the disruptive innovations that most disruptors use, it first considers the high-end markets. That means the performance the customer will pay for. That is the most profitable part. And then the lower part is the low-end market. The low-end market is the performance of the customers will not pay for. It's the least profitable. So one is most profitable, other one is least profitable. The disruptors have a unique characteristics. They don't want to start with the most profitable. They want to start from the least profitable and slowly move up and go into competition with the existing incumbents to reach to the high-end markets, and then just dislodge and throw out of the existing incumbents out of the market. Now, the next one is the incumbents sustaining trajectory. The sustaining trajectory that has the goal to maximize profit by giving higher performance with the existing setups using the conventional chips. Let's say the whole concept of this idea should ultimately refer to the conventional chips, because I have just spoken that it is a competition the autonomous chips are going to give to the conventional chips. So our existing ship owners, they seem to be, they are trying to perform higher with their conventional ships. For example, an old ship of 15-year-old ships, if it is made to compete with a brand new ship of 2 years, there are difficulties. But some people would like to continue with these old ships to go neck to neck with the conventional ships, with the new ships. The entrance disruptive trajectory is the goal to maximize profit by giving higher performance after replacing the industry's existing setups of the conventional ship. For example, let's say the autonomous ship that has certain objectives to perform in the shipping business market, but obviously as it grows from its, I think it is 60 or 80 meters length to higher lengths, probably that would be competing with the conventional ships much more. This is the activity model of the innovations. Earlier it was the conceptual model, but this is the activity model. Here we can see on the left hand side the product performance, which has got higher and lower, higher on top, lower at the bottom, with respect to the time in the horizontal bar in the x-axis. All you can see is sky blue line at the bottom that has the low end markets, that is least profitable, and then the mainstream market, and then the high end market, most profitable one. Incumbent sustaining trajectory, it starts in between the low and the medium, and slowly it has the goal to reach to the high end markets. Some companies are in between the mainstream and the low end. That's why we see the different brands and different companies' profit structure from one shipping company to another shipping companies. And let's say this entrance disruptive trajectory that's come from the low end. Let's say the autonomous ship, the ship owner, let's say Kaustuv shipping, will start from the lower end with a less profit, because if they really wanted to have a higher profit, they could have made the ships, instead of 80 meters, they could have made the ships, that name of the ship is Yara, Barclay, everybody knows, the ships to 120, 130, or even maybe 200 meters. So their initial plan is to start with the low end markets and slowly move up to the higher ends of the market. This is a very simple model. Everybody can understand this. It's nothing very complex. Setting the barriers against disruption. This is where our challenges begin. in order to survive the disruptive innovations in your industry, or in our case, our in shipping industry, it is better to develop a disruption of our own before it is too late to reap the reward of participations in the new high growth markets, especially in the volatile markets. And we all know shipping is a very volatile market. We need to be very, very proactive in our case. So it is actually the fight between one innovation to another innovation. So rather, one disruptive innovations versus another disruptive innovations, and then let one be down the lower than the other, than the higher one. We should remember that even after invention of aeroplanes, the conventional cargo ships still cross the oceans. This is a significant comparison between the airlines and the cargo ships. Obviously, people were not happy traveling on cargo ships 100 years back, and that's why they made the aeroplanes now, which is faster. Yet the aeroplanes has not taken much of our cargo ship, the shipping's business. A few percent, maybe about 15 maximum % of the cargo movement. And I'm sure that you are all aware of UNCTAD, UNCTAD, the 2019 market review in shipping. It is available in the internet, where they said that total amount of merchandise that moved across the world was 11.1 billion tons. So one can imagine that it said that included also 800 million containers. So this is a tremendous size of business. Anyhow, we should remember, even after invention of the aeroplanes and the conventional cargo ships still cross the oceans. This is because the barriers the conventional ships have set in themselves. These barriers must be created through their own innovations, and therefore innovation versus innovation can build a barrier against disruption. See, here it hits us. If they have invented autonomous ships, then we need to do something. We need to think of some innovation in our existing conventional ships. Then only then we can set the barriers from future Yara barclanes to come and take over our business. The managers in shipping companies must not only disrupt themselves, but also consider the fate of their legacy operations. The legacy operation is this, that the operation that has been continuing for several ages. For example, let's say we still have 56 to 60 different types of port papers to make. Bill of lading still needs to be signed. There's so many other things, and we need to have a huge number of certificates still on board. The ship's own certificates, plus the certificates of the seafarers, plus the certificates of ancillary equipments, etc., etc., for which decades or more profitability may lie ahead. So if we can disrupt our existing system that has been put in place and in the prevalent situation, then we can think something ahead. Building a systematic plan. We just can talk about these disruptive innovations in our existing setups. We need to have a systematic plan. So here the suggestion is that therefore the shipping needs to build a systematic plan to chart the path of its own disruptions, so that it can design a better strategic response to determine if the missile will hit head-on or graze or pass it all together. Therefore, we need to identify the following points. So that means we need to identify our strength. We need to identify the strength of disruptors' business model. What lies behind Yara Backland's building? What thought they had? Was it really a safety? Was it really, was it a major concern of the ship safety? Was it a real concern of human resource? Was it a major concern of technical issues? Was it a major concern of business? That we need to identify. And by identifying these points, then we can attack those points, because in any kind of competition or competitive war, it is the strategy that we need to make. Where exactly we need to attack? What is their weakest point? We need to identify that. Then we need to identify our own relative advantage. What we have now, what the conventional ship owners or the conventional ships they have now over here of our claim. Then evaluate the condition that would help or hinder the disruption from co-opting mutual benefits. It's not that we don't want to learn from them. We want to learn from them, but we take the best out of them. For example, the Samsung took best of Apple, and today both are competing. So we need to co-opt. Maybe they will co-opt. We will also co-opt. It reminds me that, a few months back, I read one article about the Greek innovations versus Norwegian innovations. They said the Norwegians are very good in automations and improvements and construction, but the Greeks are very different from the Norwegians by innovations in leadership, crew manning, and more of intangible assets, where the Norwegians are more on tangible assets, but the Greeks are in intangible assets. And maybe one day we can discuss about it. Very interesting article. Some examples of disruptions here. Online classes versus classroom classes. Physical money transaction versus digital money transactions. Physical currency versus cryptocurrency. Autonomous ships versus conventional ships. There are just few examples. There are so many others. What needs to be changed in the existing? What needs to be changed in the existing advantage to gain over the disruptors' advantage? One is the momentum barrier. Considering the customers are used to the status quo and are resistant to changes, example, conventional ships have run for many years. So the charterers will have second thought whether to charter the autonomous ships or to charter the conventional ships, because the conventional ships, they already know the characteristics of it. Never mind one ship that ran aground in Suez Canal, but that was, of course, different issues. But it was no fault of the ship. The ship doesn't have a mind, and ship doesn't have a brain. The way the ship was run, it happened to the ship. So it is equally applicable to the autonomous ships also. Number two is the tech implementation barriers, changing the existing technology being used. Example, remote mooring. Remote mooring, just one of the basics. There's so many other things that we can do actually. Ecosystem barrier, to make the change in business environment, example, correctly using the digital technology. We are still not using enough of digital technology in our ship operations and the ship business. It is there. We don't use to that extent. Basically, there's some kind of conservativeness has been noticed in shipping. I don't know why, and that's the reason actually it's not run to the full extent. Business model barrier, by improving the cost control, example, reducing the number of departments in the shipping company and authority departments. This I don't want to say a number for much, because maybe I'll be tagged as a bad person. Because so many departments in shipping, actually, they can be changed, of which I tell you, chartering is the one. I don't want to go the details of full details of it now. I can talk about it later. Disruptive innovations in the maritime shipping, the analysis. The more barriers the disruptor faces, the more difficult it will be for the disruptor, the more likely the customers will stay with the incumbents. That means the people or the existing business, the people who are engaged in existing business. The legacy business is the conventional ships. The disruptor is the autonomous ships. The disruptor's advantage is unmanned ship, no HR issues, like wages, accidents, mutiny, disease, etc. Disruptors' disadvantages are technical breakdown, high insurance, over-reliance on virtual technology, maneuverability in congested sea lanes, port areas, inaccurate actions during bad weather, example, rolling, pitching due to wrong direction of wind, sea, swell in weather synopsis, so forth. We can't say our weather reports are still very accurate because so many times selling on so many ships, I found them that the weather routing companies, they give the synopsis that's wrong, and even with the real time activities. Methodology to prevent disruptive innovation. There are 6 steps, but this goes to the part of the research, which if the people are interested, we can always conduct this research to have a very wider people's opinion. And remember, the society or the truth is governed by the people, the human beings. So what they think, that actually the reality. One is the selection of innovations cases and the farm samples. So you can go from company to company, one shipping company to another shipping companies, to find out what difficulties they are facing and if the conventional ships continue to run, whether it will be beneficial for them or if the autonomous ships come, it will be beneficial. But mind you, I have not come across anybody in any shipping company who has said, yes, the autonomous ships are far better than we can get rid of the human beings, especially the seafarers. Number 2 is the preliminary list of strategic objectives. We need to have a very list of strategy. What are the strategic objectives we want to improve in the conventional ships that we must find out exactly. The final list of the strategic objectives. This will come, of course, with the very senior people in the shipping because their experience, each of them I consider is a huge library of maritime studies in each of them. And sometimes I read their comments and I understand there's so much they are keeping. Why not put them into a kind of repository? Data collection through interviews, that's important. Then we have the individual ranking comparison, like Wilcoxon and student test. But Wilcoxon and student test, these are all statistical part. This is nothing much to discuss about. This actually, for example, I just give you Wilcoxon actually finds the comparison and the statistical significance of a pair of a set of pairs actually. So we can find out the one pair that they are talking about autonomous ships and the other pair talking about the conventional ships. Student t-test, this is statistical part we don't want to discuss yet. When we do statistics, that time we can explain. Number 6 is the aggregate data analysis. So we have to aggregate the data, what you have found, and then the outcome, success, innovation, failure, and incidental success. Because it's all the human mind, that is what we are thinking today. Only the human mind can judge what is going to be successful in future and what is not going to be successful in future. When the diversity of the innovation objectives are known to the incumbents, we can measure the success of an innovation initiative with respect to the objectives. So if you know the objectives correctly, we can really measure. Unless we know the subject, we cannot measure. Surviving disruptive innovations in the maritime shipping, the summary. There is always a difference in sense from the human perceptions and the artificial intelligence sense, especially in reflex, intuitions, and promptitude of taking actions. Therefore, wise shipping should not fight the autonomous ships disruption head on. I'm not saying that you should fight. No, we don't want. Then it is a like of Indian strikes. That's a very stupid thing to do. Let them come in the market for competition. Survival will be for the fittest. Darwin. Go back to Darwin theory. The traditional ship owners should instead focus on developing innovations in their conventional ships aimed at still defensible jobs like crewing, planning, technical planning, logistics, supply chain planning, infrastructure planning, etc., not in terms of ephemeral short-term margin. This is quite common. The shipping always resort to the short-term, like just ephemeral, just for time being, and that's why you call it. Just manage kar lo na, baad mein dikha jayega. So this must not be there. But in realistic pursuit of the longer-term competitive advantage of autonomous ships. So that means that we have to think it in a competitive advantage in the longer term with autonomous ships. Okay, finally, accepting the existence of new competitive paradigm in our existing business is never easy. It often forces us to acknowledge an inevitable loss of business. It may require us to develop disruption to cannibalize our own existing business. existing businesses. It's like competitors saying that creative destructions, or I would say to some part of, to some extent, of dances of Shiva. Failing to come to terms with the realities will make cease to exist, and healthy future for us will set below the horizon. Thank you, and question and answers.
Thank you, Captain Dr. Dev Goswami, for the wonderful presentation. I leave the house open. There are some questions, I believe, in the chat box. Captain Goswami, if you can go through them.
Okay, let's see. Let me see. Knowledgeable presentation. Shipping. Has shipping not seen significant innovation in the past 3 decades? Smaller ships. Yeah, here let me start with the first question, Captain Kutu Banerjee. We have seen changes in significant changes in shipping. Of course, the ships running with, he says that 60 to 70 people. We have seen changes that have come to come down to 20 to 24 crew on board, and I had last 20 people on board on my last ship. But the thing of this situation is that life has changed also. That with that 20 to 24 people, how well the ship is running, I have not got any satisfactory answer from others because when you had these 60 to 70 people, there was no MLC, and now I think the new MLC is coming in 2000 soon now. That time, a lot of human-related issues were not focused, but now 22 to 24 ships, 22 to 24 people on board, human-related issues are being focused because somebody must have understood that these human-related issues are being ignored by reducing the numbers. And these are the changes, but majority of the changes that have taken place in the human-related issues and, of course, the technical issues also to some extent, but not as much as to the autonomous part. We are talking about these innovations which have taken place in last few years, past 3 decades. They are only a small portion of the major change that can take place, and it's still in the process of a lot of lacking in the system. We are still lack. We don't seem to. There is always the findings are still getting on the ships and technical issues, the human-related issues, and the certification issues. So I would say that these innovations that have come in last 3 decades is still in the process, except the construction and part, the emission related regulations. I'd say the other things, the innovations that have come. Of course, the ships are fitted with covers. These are the new innovations. But these are only a portion of innovations, not that to the extent that can be compared with Yara Workland. Thank you, Captain Banerjee, again, once again, for this excellent question. The next question is, what will be the effect of autonomous shipping into the jobs of the seafarers? Yes, this is a very, this has come from Gaurav Pandey from IMU, Kochi. At this moment, of course, I'm not an industry expert. There are CEOs, they are sitting very high up top in Hong Kong, Shanghai, London, New York. And I have not actually got the opportunity to meet all of them, except a few, like in Walem or in TK. Name, let's say, Peter Evenson or Captain Graham Westgard. A few days back, I saw Pradeep Khalid. At present, not everybody at this moment not looking at next 10 years. We should not be worried about these ships. This ship is only one of its kind. If it was that of major gravity, then probably 50 ships could be under production. It's still in the research stage. Yara Workland is just in the research stage, but next 10 years, so we can play as we go. But thanks to Gaurav Pandey, because he has really projected. To me, it looks like he's going to be in shipping. He will not be there quitting sea after just getting his command and just quit the sea. Good luck, Gautam Pandey. Okay, now next one is youngsters here do not, that Captain Banerjee has already said, same in line. But this, in fact, can be moved aside to the automobiles. There will be a threat to the upcoming job in the maritime market. I know we are always worried about the job because in India, the scarcity of the job is a very significant issue and a social problem. And we'll always be worried about. But at this moment, I tell you, another 10 years, I'm not looking at. This is out of my experience without going into the meeting. Without going into the meeting of the top brass in the shipping industries, the CEOs, if they allow me to meet them one day, then for sure I will have better predictions. And any other questions? Okay, then. Okay. Anything else? If there is nothing else, then I leave it to Captain Dutta to decide what he would like to do with us.
Oh, there is one, just now one question has come from, just now, see the last one, the latest entry in the chat box.
No, I cannot see this question.
Just now come, 6:59.
No, in my, this thing is, what is the name of the person? Can you speak out? Then we
Yeah, okay. He's saying, good evening, sir. Very enlightening session on disruptive innovation. Sir has rightly said, survival of the fittest. How can we as youngsters prepare ourselves to compete with the disruptive innovation that is the autonomous shipping to stay in the shipping industry? Of course, I think you have already given the answer.
Yeah, what is the name of this gentleman who has asked this question?
Monish, Mr. Monish.
Okay,
Monish Pagarkar.
Manish Pagarkar, this is a very good question, and this kind of questions actually can become the objectives for the strategy that we can develop, thinking about the youngsters. Our life is more or less has come to an end. I'd say more or less coming to an end, and Monish Pagarkar, yes, I can see. So Pagarkar. So your question is very interesting, and this actually is the future. What the future will be, as I mentioned in my presentation, that it will always be the innovation versus innovations. If they innovate, then you need to innovate, and this is what you have the normal human instinct that for an example, let's say even the Newton's third law says that every action has equal and opposite reaction. So if they innovate, then you need to innovate, and then you need to prove your existing system, how you can change that your existing systems. For an example, let's say that you can do further studies in the innovation itself, in the autonomous ships innovation itself. So then you'll have a good market value. You first complete your sea time and selling time and take a good senior ranks positions. Then you go into the research mode, and then you help the industries. That should be the innovations, and no problem. And at least for the next 10 years, as I said, no one should be worried about.
I think Captain Banerjee has raised his hand. Yes, Captain Vidut Banerjee, please. Go ahead.
As a member of CMMI and a lot of youngsters here, I would like to assure them, or rather reassure them about their career at sea. If, with the permission of the chair, I would like to, bring in two things. See, the autonomous ships is a design which is a feasible design now gone into practical deployment as a prototype. But automation needs two things which we do not see happening in the shipping. One is the fidelity of the systems and the money that is required to put into autonomous ships. So unless that is committed, don't worry about autonomous ships. The crew are on board because that is the cheapest way out. Okay. And just remember, shipyards are full of order of ships. The ships which are being delivered in 2021, 22, 23, 24, they will be in service for next 2 decades. So you'll have enough ships to serve. So autonomous ships, watch the show, let it come. It is not an easy job. Not a common man goes to sea because it's a difficult life. It's a challenging life. So for autonomous ships to come and meet up with the challenges, it will take time. So don't worry about it. You have 2 decades to focus on your job in this career. And number 2, about the what to do if the autonomous ships come in. You see that sentence that was there in the presentation, and you also mentioned survival of the fittest. So make sure you are the fittest. So challenge yourself to your limits, extend your limits, be versatile, take in as much knowledge as possible, be ready to go into any job that comes your way. It may be a different challenge, different job role. Be ready to accept it. So if you are the fittest, why you worry? So make yourself the fittest. That is the thing. You will survive anywhere you are. That's all. Thank you.
Well said, Captain Narayan.
Yeah, this Captain Banerjee is actually a very good speaker, and his vast knowledge in shipping, I'm sure that can really help the industries in India. But the only thing is that he needs to be really brought into the field, you see. So I guess the next presentation we should include Captain Banerjee. You know? Yes, Captain Banerjee should come forward.
I think my piecemeal bits and pieces is enough. I should not be taking the full session because, this should be content enough to actually impress upon the minds of the youngsters.
Yeah.
Because I am just like you and Kaustuv, we have had a great run in this profession, 40 years at sea. So I think we saw a great disruption in our lives after our second mates. We didn't have a job for 1.5, 2 years. I think that has been a boon because we had no option but to become the fittest. And after that break of 1.5, 2 years with no jobs, and all the batchmates of mine were doing odd jobs all over India, being salesmen, tally clerks. Some joined the other professions also. Two of them became admirals in the Navy after joining the Indian Navy. So this disruption is good because it challenges you to go to the extremes of your abilities. So I think bits and pieces from me is okay. Full topics is difficult. We'll see. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Banerjee.
Any other questions? Any participants wishes to ask any questions related to strategy, disruptive, surviving disruptive strategies, or anything to do with shipping part, business?
A lot of youngsters have today joined. I can see IMU, Kochi.
Yeah, if no questions, then we can continue.
Yeah, we'll just end today's monthly lecture meeting. And as promised, as introduced by Captain Goswami, my election manifesto for the Warden election this year was strategy planning and all that. So I'm planning to do that for increasing the CMMI's financial revenue in the next 2 years as a Warden. Thank you, gentlemen, for attending today's wonderful presentation by Captain Dr. Dev Goswami. We'll meet again soon.
Yeah, yes. And also to Captain Kaustuv. Thank you.
Yes. Both the topics were good. So will the what do you call that topic subject will be available in our group?
Yes, I will share it.
Okay.
Captain Goswami.
Yeah, the thing is, we actually decided to do these presentations slightly in a different way because most of the talks which have been going on, the presentations are going on related to the shipping safety, emissions, and regulations related issues. But when we are talking about it, then we actually moved to do something different than the others which are very commonly discussed, because there is a tendency we have observed, as not actually tendency, the slant trend we have observed what the other Zoom organizers are doing. So we decided to do something differently. And of course, we believe in this doing things differently, because if you don't think different, then we are not thinking anything. If you're not doing the things differently, then you are not thinking the other angles in the field. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for attending. We'll meet again. See you soon.
Thank you, Kaustuv. Good session. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye. Thank you, everybody. All.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kaustuv. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Nice
sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Chalo, log out now. Thank you.
Recording stopped.